When Michael Jordan spots his college sweetheart Vanessa in the front row at a charity basketball game, the crowd watches in shock as the greatest player of all time freezes mid-game, missing an easy shot. No one knows their history, how she tutored him in English before he was famous, how they fell in love, or how they painfully broke up when his rising fame changed everything. No one knows he once bought her a ring, planning to propose before their final fight. As their eyes lock across the crowded arena, 28 years of questions hang between them. Who sent Vanessa the mysterious ticket that brought her here? And why now, after all these decades? The answer will stun everyone watching, especially Michael Jordan himself. Vanessa Miller stared at the ticket on her kitchen table. The bold, red letters announced a charity basketball game in Chicago, just 3 days away. Her hands shook as she picked it up again. "Why now?" she whispered to her empty Boston apartment. Outside, rain tapped against the windows. Vanessa walked to the living room and looked at the city lights blurred by raindrops. At 52, she had built a good life. Her child psychology practice helped hundreds of kids each year. Her apartment overlooked the Charles River. She had friends, a cat named Miles, and enough money to travel whenever she wanted. But she never married, never found anyone who measured up to her first love. Mike. Vanessa returned to the kitchen and picked up the small note that had come with the ticket. "He still asks about you." No signature, no return address, just those 5 words that had turned her world upside down. 28 years had passed since she last saw Michael Jordan in person. Back then, he wasn't the legend on posters and sneakers. He was just Mike, the tall, lanky boy with the bright smile who needed help passing English. She sank into a chair, memories washing over her like waves. The library where they first met. Him, frustrated over a paper about the old man and the sea. Her, offering to help because she'd seen him play and thought his fadeaway jump shot was poetry in motion. "Basketball makes sense," he had told her that first day. "These books don't." "Books are just stories," she had replied, "like the ones you're writing on the court." He had looked at her differently then, not as another tutor, but as someone who saw him, really saw him. Miles jumped onto her lap, purring loudly. Vanessa stroked his orange fur, still lost in the past. Their first date had been at a small pizza place where the owner knew Mike but didn't make a big deal about it. They had talked for hours about dreams, his to play in the NBA, hers to help kids heal. About family, his supportive parents, her single mom who worked 2 jobs. About fears, his that he wouldn't be good enough, hers that she would end up alone. "I won't let that happen," he had promised, holding her hand across the table. Vanessa laughed bitterly at the memory. So much for promises. She got up and poured herself a glass of water. On her fridge hung her schedule for the week. Patients on Monday and Tuesday. A conference call on Wednesday. Nothing on Thursday or Friday. Nothing stopping her from going to Chicago. "This is crazy," she told Miles, who blinked at her with yellow eyes. "I can't just drop everything because of some mystery ticket." But she could. And part of her, a part she thought had died years ago, wanted to. Vanessa picked up her phone and scrolled to her assistant's number. "Rachel, it's me. I need you to reschedule my Thursday and Friday appointments. Something's come up." After hanging up, she felt lighter somehow, like a decision had been made without her, conscious mind agreeing to it. She walked to her bedroom and opened the closet. What does one wear to see their ex after nearly 3 decades? Especially when that ex is Michael Jordan? At the back of her closet hung a red dress she'd bought for a fundraiser last year. Red had always been his favorite color on her. Not Chicago Bulls red. He hadn't played for them yet when they dated. Just red, because he said it made her brown skin glow. Vanessa pushed the dress aside. She wouldn't dress for him. Those days were long gone. Instead, she pulled out her laptop and booked a flight to Chicago for Thursday morning. Her finger hesitated over the confirm button. Was she really doing this? The mystery note nagged at her. Who sent it? How did they know Michael still asked about her? Was it a cruel joke? Only one way to find out. She clicked confirm and watched as her flight details appeared on screen. One way to Chicago, departing Thursday at 9:15 a.m. She didn't book a return flight. She wasn't sure when she'd want to leave. Later that night, after packing a small suitcase, Vanessa sat on her bed and opened the drawer of her nightstand. From beneath a stack of journals, she pulled out a faded photograph. 2 young people smiled at the camera, arms around each other, the university library visible in the background. Shad traced her finger over the young man's face. His eyes sparkled with life and promise. No weight of fame yet on his shoulders. No championship rings. No billion-dollar brand. Just Mike. Her Mike. What am I doing? She asked the empty room. The photo didn't answer. Neither did Miles, now, curled at the foot of her bed. Vanessa placed the photo on her nightstand instead of returning it to its hiding place. For years, she had followed his career from a distance, celebrated his wins, hurt for his losses, watched his Hall of Fame speech, and heard the bitterness in his voice as he called out everyone who had doubted him. She had dated other men over the years, a doctor who worked too much, a teacher who loved her but needed more than she could give, a businessman who proposed after 6 months. She said no, always no. None of them had that fire, that determination, that smile that could light up her whole world. None of them were him. The last time she saw Mike in person, they had fought. His first big contract had just been signed. Reporters followed him everywhere. Their private life wasn't private anymore. "You're changing," she had accused him during their final fight. "All this attention, all this money, it's changing you." "I'm still me," he had insisted, "but this is my chance, Nessa. Everything I've worked for." "What about us? Where do I fit in your new life?" He hadn't answered right away. That pause told her everything. "One day you'll see who really cares about you, Mike," she had said before walking away. He called for weeks after. She never picked up. Pride. Stupid pride. Now here she was, 28 years later, flying across the country because of an anonymous note and a basketball ticket. He still asks about you. 5 words that made her wonder what might have been. Vanessa turned off her lamp and lay in the darkness. In 3 days, she would be in Chicago. In 3 days, she might see him again. The thought terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. Sleep came slowly that night, filled with dreams of basketball courts and bright lights and a boy with a smile that promised forever. Morning arrived with doubts. By afternoon, she had nearly canceled her flight 3 times. By evening, as she reviewed patient files, She had convinced herself she wouldn't go. But Thursday morning found her in a taxi to the airport, the ticket and mysterious note tucked safely in her purse, her heart pounding with each mile that brought her closer to the past she'd tried so hard to forget. The past that had a name and a face and 28 years of questions left unanswered. Mike. The plane hummed steadily as it cut through clouds. Vanessa pressed her forehead against the small window, watching America pass beneath her. 3 hours to Chicago. 3 hours until she landed in the past. The flight attendant offered her a drink. Vanessa asked for water, though part of her wanted something stronger. As the plane leveled at cruising altitude, memories flooded back. Memories she had locked away for years. Fall semester, 1989. The university library smelled of old books and floor polish. Vanessa sat at her usual table, surrounded by psychology textbooks. She tutored students to help pay for school. And that day, her schedule said M. Jordan, English 101. She remembered looking up when a shadow fell across her books. He stood there, tall and a little awkward, basketball tucked under one arm, backpack hanging from the other. "You, Vanessa?" he'd asked. She nodded. "You're late." Practice ran long. He sat down across from her. "Coach says I need to pass English or I can't play." Vanessa had seen him on the court. Everyone had. The new star who could fly through the air like gravity was just a suggestion. "Well," she'd said, tapping his textbook, "time to work as hard here as you do on the court." He'd smiled then, that smile that would one day sell millions of sneakers. And she'd felt something flutter in her chest. The plane hit turbulence, jolting Vanessa back to the present. The memory of that first meeting still felt so clear, so present, as if it had happened last week instead of 3 decades ago. Their study sessions became the highlight of her week. Mike was smarter than he let on. He struggled with Shakespeare and Hemingway, not because he couldn't understand, but because he couldn't sit still long enough to finish reading. "Tell me the story while I stretch," he'd suggested one day when he was particularly restless. So she did. She walked around the table summarizing Romeo and Juliet while he stretched his long legs. When she got to the part where Romeo thought Juliet was dead, he stood up, straight. "That's messed up," he'd said, "all because of poor communication." "Some would say it's romantic," she'd countered. "Dying isn't romantic," he'd argued. "Fighting to stay together, that's romantic." 2 weeks later, he'd asked her out. Their first date wasn't fancy. A small pizza place off campus called Tony's. The owner knew Mike from basketball games but didn't make a fuss. They sat in a corner booth away from other customers. "Why English?" he'd asked between bites of pepperoni pizza. "Why not math or science?" "Words matter," she'd answered. "They can hurt or heal. I want to help kids learn to use them to heal." He'd nodded as if this made perfect sense. "That's why you're studying child psychology?" She'd been surprised he remembered. Most people didn't listen when she talked about her dreams. "Yes, I want to help kids who can't find the right words for their pain." "I like that about you," he'd said, reaching for her hand. "You see things others don't." The flight attendant's voice broke through her memory. "Anything else I can get you?" Vanessa shook her head, surprised to find her eyes damp. She blamed the dry airplane air. More memories came. Winter break, studying together in his dorm room because the library was closed. Spring semester, cheering. At his games, feeling the excitement build as scouts started showing up. Summer, walking along the lake, talking about the future. "Come with me," he'd said one night under the stars, "wherever I end up playing. We'll make it work." She'd believed him then, believed in them. His star rose quickly. First came the attention on campus, then local press, then national. He couldn't walk to class without people stopping him for autographs. She watched it happen in stages. His walk changed first, more confident, shoulders back. Then his clothes, designer labels replaced thrift store finds. Finally, his time, less for her, more for interviews, photo shoots, meetings, with agents. The beginning of the end came at a party after a big game. A reporter had asked her how it felt to be dating the next NBA superstar. "He's more than a basketball player," she'd answered. "He's a student, a son, a boyfriend. Basketball is what he does, not who he is." The reporter had loved that quote. Mike hadn't. "Why did you say that?" he demanded later. "Basketball is who I am. It's everything." "Everything?" she'd asked quietly. "What about us?" The plane began its descent into Chicago. Vanessa closed her eyes, remembering their final fight. His first major endorsement deal had just been announced. Reporters camped outside their apartments. Their private jokes appeared in sports magazines. "You're changing," she'd accused him. "I'm growing," he'd corrected. "This is my dream happening, Nessa. Why can't you be happy for me?" "I am happy for you. I just don't recognize you anymore." What's that supposed to mean? The Mike I fell in love with cared about more than fame. Now everything's about your brand, your image, your career. That's not fair, isn't it? When's the last time you asked about my classes, my internship, my mom? He'd had no answer. "One day you'll see who really cares about you, Mike," she'd said before walking away. He'd called for weeks, left messages, sent flowers. Her pride kept her from answering. His pride eventually stopped him from trying. By the time she realized she'd made a mistake, he was already becoming Michael Jordan, not just Mike from college. And Vanessa Miller was just another paragraph in his biography, if that. The pilot's voice announced their final approach to Chicago. Vanessa fastened her seatbelt and took a deep breath. 28 years of questions. 28 years of what-ifs. 28 years of watching. From afar, as he became the greatest basketball player of all time, the plane touched down with a gentle bump. Vanessa was back in Chicago, where it had all begun, where she had loved and lost the man the world came to know as Michael Jordan. But to her, he would always be Mike, her first love, her biggest regret, and in less than 24 hours, she might see him again. Chicago had changed since Vanessa last visited. Taller buildings, busier streets, but the wind was the same, strong and insistent, pushing against her as she stepped out of the taxi the next evening. She stood before the United Center, clutching her ticket. The massive arena loomed over her, Michael's silhouette visible on banners hanging from the walls. His famous jump pose, legs spread, ball raised high. A statue of him stood nearby, frozen mid-flight. Fans streamed past her into the building. Families with children too young to have seen him play. Older fans wearing faded Bulls jerseys. Celebrities trying to blend in behind sunglasses and baseball caps. "You going in, or what?" asked a man. behind her. Vanessa nodded, moving forward with the crowd. Her heart thumped so loudly she was sure others could hear it. Inside, the arena buzzed with excitement. Music pumped through speakers. The smell of popcorn and hot dogs filled the air. Vanessa checked her ticket again. Section 112, Row 1, Seat 6. Front row, directly across from the home team bench. A prime seat worth thousands. "Excuse me," she asked an usher. "Could you help me find my seat?" The young man glanced at her ticket and raised his eyebrows. "Floor seats? This way, ma'am." Ma'am. When did she get old enough to be called ma'am? She followed him downstairs and through a special entrance. That led courtside. Other attendees in this section wore expensive clothes and diamond jewelry. Vanessa felt out of place in her simple blue dress and low heels. "Here you are," said the usher, gesturing to her seat. "Enjoy the game." Vanessa sat down, just feet from the shining wooden court. Players from both teams were already warming up, shooting baskets and stretching. No sign of Michael yet. A woman with a clipboard approached her. "Ms. Miller?" Vanessa looked up, surprised. "Yes? We have a VIP package for you." The woman handed her a small gift bag. Compliments of the event organizer. Before Vanessa could ask questions, the woman hurried away to help other guests. Inside the bag, Vanessa found a program, a water bottle, and a note card that read, "Glad you came. Enjoy the show." Still no signature. The mystery deepened. Someone had gone to a lot of trouble to get her here. But who and why? The arena lights dimmed suddenly. The crowd roared as a spotlight circled the court. Vanessa gripped the armrests of her seat. "Ladies and gentlemen," boomed an announcer's voice. "Welcome to the annual Legends Charity Game." More cheers erupted as the announcer began introducing players. First came current NBA stars, young men Vanessa recognized from TV, then retired players from recent years. And now, the announcer's voice dropped to a dramatic whisper that somehow still filled the arena. "Please, welcome the legends." The crowd rose to their feet as basketball icons from the past decades entered the court one by one. Each received loud applause, but everyone knew these weren't the legends they had come to see. Charles Barkley, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, former Bulls players got the loudest cheers. Vanessa stood with everyone else, clapping, politely while her eyes remained fixed on the entrance tunnel. A drum roll began. The spotlight narrowed to the tunnel entrance. And now, the announcer paused for effect. The greatest of all time. "Michael Jordan!" The arena exploded. People screamed and stamped their feet. Camera flashes created a lightning storm of light. And there he was. Michael Jordan jogged onto the court, waving to fans. At 60, his hair was gray at the temples, but he still moved with the grace of an athlete. He wore his iconic number, 23 jersey, and a pair of his own brand sneakers. Vanessa's knees weakened. She sank back into her seat, while others remained standing. He looked different, yet the same. Older, of course. More lines around his eyes, but still that confident posture. Still that aura of greatness. The players broke into teams, red and white jerseys. Michael captained the red team. They huddled briefly before taking their positions for the opening jump ball. This wasn't a serious game. That much was clear from the start. The players joked with each other, performed trick shots, and played to the crowd. It was entertainment, not competition. But even in this relaxed setting, Michael's competitive nature showed. He directed his teammates, called plays, and scored with surprising ease for a man his age. When he made a difficult shot, the crowd chanted, "MVP! MVP!" Vanessa watched, mesmerized. This was the Mike she knew, in his element. Basketball had always brought out the best. In him, his focus, his joy, his brilliance. During the first timeout, Michael sat on the bench directly across from where Vanessa sat. He drank from a water bottle and laughed at something Pippen said to him. He seemed happy, relaxed. Vanessa slid lower in her seat, suddenly afraid he would see her. What had seemed like a good idea yesterday now felt foolish. What did she expect would happen? That he would spot her and the years would melt away? That he would care she was here? A tall man in an expensive suit took the seat next to Vanessa. "Some game, huh?" he said. She nodded, not really listening. Her eyes remained fixed on Michael. "You a basketball fan?" the man persisted. "I used to be," she answered softly. The game resumed. Michael played less in the second quarter, coaching. From the sidelines more than participating. Still, he commanded attention wherever he went. "Ladies and gentlemen," the announcer's voice interrupted Vanessa's thoughts. "Please welcome a special musical performance during halftime." The first half ended with Michael's team leading by 10 points. Players walked off the court toward their locker rooms. As Michael passed near Vanessa's section, he high-fived fans, reaching over the barrier. She held her breath, but he didn't look her way. Halftime entertainment began. A famous singer Vanessa recognized from television. The crowd sang along too, pop hits, while laser lights danced across the arena ceiling. Vanessa couldn't focus on the show. Her mind raced with questions. Should she try to approach him after the game? Would security even let her near him? And if they did, what would she say after all these years? "Sorry I never answered your calls. I've missed you every day. Why did you let me go?" None seemed right. Maybe she should leave now. She'd seen him. Mystery solved. Curiosity satisfied. She could go back to Boston and pretend this impulsive trip never happened. But her legs wouldn't move. Something kept her glued to her seat. The same something that had made her get on the plane yesterday. Unfinished business. The players returned for the second half. Michael had changed his jersey but looked refreshed. As his team took the court, he glanced across to the other side. His eyes swept past Vanessa, then snapped back. Even from across the court, their eyes locked. And in that moment, 28 years disappeared. Time stopped. The roaring crowd faded to silence in Vanessa's ears. The bright lights dimmed. All she could see was Michael's face as recognition dawned in his eyes. He froze, water bottle halfway to his lips. His expression shifted from shock to disbelief to something Vanessa couldn't name. A referee blew a whistle, breaking the spell. Michael blinked and turned away as his teammates called him back to the game. Vanessa's hands trembled. He had seen her. After all these years, he had known her instantly. On the court, Michael missed an easy shot, something that made the crowd murmur in surprise. It wasn't like him to miss. He shook his head, clearly distracted. "Are you okay?" asked the man next to Vanessa. "You look like you've seen a ghost." In a way, she had. The ghost of a love long buried. "I'm fine," she managed to say. "Just warm in here." The second half continued, but Michael's game had changed. He kept glancing toward Vanessa's seat during plays. Once, he nearly collided with a teammate because he wasn't watching where he was going. "Something's off with Jordan tonight," remarked a woman behind Vanessa. "Never seen him this unfocused." During the next time out, Michael sat on the bench, directly across from Vanessa. This time, he stared openly at her. His teammates talked around him, but he didn't seem to hear them. His eyes never left her face. Vanessa wanted to hide, to disappear into her seat, but she forced herself to meet his gaze. After all, wasn't this why she had come? To face the past, instead of running from it? She gave a small, awkward wave. Michael's face remained unreadable. He nodded slightly before his coach pulled his attention back to the game. A young boy sitting nearby tugged his father's sleeve. "Dad, why is Michael Jordan staring over here?" "Probably saw someone he knows, son." If only it were that simple, thought Vanessa, to just know someone. She and Michael had been more than acquaintances. For a brief, shining moment in their youth, they had been everything to each other. And then nothing. The game resumed. Michael played with renewed energy now, as if trying to prove something. He performed an impossible dunk that had the crowd on their feet. He stole the ball from a player half his age. He sank three-pointers like they were nothing. "Now that's the Michael Jordan we came to see," shouted a fan. Every time he scored, his eyes found Vanessa's. No smile, no wink. Just that intense look she remembered so well. The one that said he was all in, giving everything. But to what? The game? Or this unexpected reunion? The final quarter began with the teams tied. Excitement built as the players stepped up their game for the finish. Even in a charity match, no one wanted to lose, especially not Michael Jordan. Vanessa found herself cheering despite her nerves. Michael's competitiveness had always been contagious. It was one of the things she had loved about him, his refusal to give less than his best. 3 minutes left on the clock. The teams traded baskets, neither gaining a real advantage. "Ladies and gentlemen," announced the commentator, "we are witnessing something special. Tonight, Michael Jordan is turning back the clock." It was true. He moved like a much younger man, his famous competitive fire burning bright. 1 minute left. Michael's team down by 1 point. The crowd chanted his name. This was what they had come for, to see the legend perform. Under pressure one more time. Michael got the ball. The defense swarmed him. He performed his signature move, the fadeaway jumper that had won so many games, so many championships. The ball arced through the air as the final buzzer sounded. Swish. Nothing but net. The arena erupted as Michael's team won by a single point. His teammates mobbed him. The crowd stamped and cheered. In the midst of the celebration, Michael broke free from the group and walked to the center of the court. He looked across at Vanessa. Then he did something unexpected. He pointed directly at her. The crowd, always watching their hero, followed his gesture. Heads turned. The giant screens. Above the court, searching for the focus of attention, found Vanessa and displayed her stunned face for everyone to see. Whispers spread through the nearby seats. "Who's that? Does anyone know her? Why is Jordan pointing at her?" Vanessa felt her face burn. Thousands of eyes were on her now. Cameras flashed. Some people even took out their phones to photograph her. Michael gave her one long look before his teammates pulled him back into their victory celebration. Vanessa wanted to disappear. This wasn't what she had expected. to be put on display for a curious crowd. She gathered her purse, ready to escape. The man next to her touched her arm. "You know him, don't you?" She hesitated, then nodded. "From way back," she said softly, "before he became Michael Jordan." The man whistled. "That must be some story." More than he could imagine. As the teams left the court, Vanessa stood to leave. The crowd was starting to thin out, many rushing to the exits to beat the traffic. An IDD or an arena staff member approached her. "Ms. Miller?" Again, they knew her name. "Yes?" "Mr. Jordan would like to speak with you after the game. If you'll follow me, I can take you to the players' exit." Vanessa froze. This was moving too fast. She had come to see him, yes, but not necessarily to speak to him. What would she say after all these years? "I don't think," she began. "He was very insistent," the staff member added. "Of course he was. Michael Jordan had always gotten what he wanted, except her. She was the one thing his fame and fortune couldn't keep." "All right," she heard herself say, "lead the way." As she followed the staff member through the arena's back corridors, Vanessa's mind raced with questions. What did he want to say to her? Would he be angry she had never returned his calls? Was he happy to see her? Confused? Indifferent? And most importantly, who had sent that ticket? The staff member stopped at a door marked "Players Only" and pointed to a small waiting area. "He'll meet you here when he's ready. It might be a while." Vanessa nodded and took a seat on a bench. Around her, a few determined fans had already gathered, hoping for autographs. She was about to meet Michael Jordan again, not the boy she had loved, but the man he had become. 28 years of silence were about to end. Vanessa checked her watch. 20 minutes had passed. Around her, other fans waited, impatiently, clutching programs and basketballs for Michael to sign. A security guard with broad shoulders and a serious face approached. "Excuse me, folks. Mr. Jordan will be a while. He suggests you try again at the next event." Disappointed groans rippled through the small crowd. People began to leave, some muttering about wasted time. The guard turned to Vanessa. "Not you, ma'am. Mr. Jordan asked me to give you this." He handed her a folded piece of paper. People still leaving glanced back with curious eyes. Who was this woman getting special treatment? "Thank you," Vanessa said, taking the note with slightly trembling fingers. The guard nodded and walked away. Vanessa waited until everyone had left before unfolding. The paper. Written in a familiar strong hand were the words, "Meet me after the game. Players exit. We need to talk." Simple, direct, just like Michael had always been. Vanessa ran her fingers over the words. His handwriting hadn't changed. Still those bold, slanted letters that matched his personality. She checked her watch again. How long should she wait? What if he'd forgotten about her already? Moved on to interviews or celebrations? What if? "Are you Vanessa Miller?" She looked up to see a woman with a press badge and a small notebook. "I saw you on the big screen," the woman continued without waiting for an answer. "The way Michael Jordan pointed at you has everyone curious. What's your connection to him?" "No comment," Vanessa said automatically. The reporter smiled. "Come on, give me something. Old friend? Former coach? Secret lucky charm? Please leave me alone." Just one quote. The lady said no comment. The new voice belonged to another security guard. This one even larger than the first. "Press needs to stay in the designated areas," he told the reporter firmly. "Ms. Miller, please, Come with me. Mr. Jordan is ready to see you now. Relieved, Vanessa followed him through a door and down a hallway lined with photos of famous basketball moments. Many featured Michael. Right through there, the guard said, gesturing to a door marked Private. He's waiting. Vanessa hesitated, her hand on the doorknob. She could still walk away. Get a taxi to the airport. Fly home. Pretend none of this had happened. But she had come too far to turn back now. She opened the door. The room was empty. It looked like a small conference room. Table, chairs, a water cooler in the corner. No Michael. Had the guard made a mistake? Was this some kind of prank? They told me you might leave. The voice came from behind her. Vanessa turned. Michael stood in the doorway she had just entered, taller than she remembered. He wore street clothes now. Expensive jeans, a tailored shirt, a watch that probably cost more than her car. I had them bring you here while I came around the back way, he explained. Too many cameras out there. Vanessa nodded, not trusting. Her voice. They stood looking at each other, the silence stretching between them. 28 years of silence. You haven't changed much, he said finally. A laugh escaped her. That's a lie, but thank you. Your smile, he clarified. It's the same. Michael closed the door behind him but didn't move closer. Why are you here, Vanessa? Direct as always. No small talk. She reached into her purse and pulled out the note that had come with her ticket. Because of this. He took it, frowning. As he read the 5 words, he still asks about you. I thought you sent it, she said. Or someone close to you. Michael handed the note back, shaking his head. Not me. Oh. Vanessa felt suddenly foolish. I should go then. I'm sorry for... Don't. He held up a hand. Don't apologize. And don't go. Another silence fell. Somewhere in the distance, they could hear people calling to each other, doors opening and closing. You disappeared, he said quietly. After our fight, you never answered my calls. I was hurt and proud. Vanessa looked down at her hands. By the time I realized I'd made a mistake, you were... I was what? Michael Jordan. Not just Mike anymore. He nodded slowly. Would it have made a difference if I'd tried harder to reach you? I don't know, she answered honestly. Maybe. Probably. Michael moved to the window, looking out at the arena parking lot. I thought about you, he said, his back to her. Over the years, when things got crazy with fame, when my marriage was falling apart, when reporters wrote lies about me. He turned to face her. I remembered what you said in our last fight, about seeing who really cared. Vanessa's throat tightened. And? You were right. Most people only saw the jersey, the brand, the legend, not the person. Before she could respond, there was a knock at the door. Mr. Jordan, your car is ready, and Coach wants to know if you're joining them for the after party. Tell them I'll be there later, Michael called back. He turned to Vanessa. I have to go. Team obligations. She nodded, understanding. Some things never changed. But we're not finished, he added. Have dinner with me tomorrow. It wasn't a question. Vanessa hesitated. Michael, Please. His voice softened. One dinner, to catch up. No pressure. She thought about her return flight, about her patients waiting in Boston, about 28 years of wondering what might have been. Okay, she agreed. One dinner. Relief crossed his face. He reached for the door, then paused. What hotel are you staying at? I'll send a car. The Palmer House. He nodded. 8 o'clock tomorrow night. Michael opened the door, then looked back at her one more time. "I'm glad you came, Nessa," he said softly, using her old nickname. Then he was gone, leaving Vanessa alone with her thoughts and a mystery still unsolved. Who had sent that ticket? And why now, after all these years? Back at her hotel, Vanessa couldn't sleep. She lay awake, replaying the evening's events in her mind. Michael's face when he first saw her, the way he'd pointed her out to the crowd, how his voice had softened when he called her Nessa. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, a text from Rachel, her assistant in Boston. "How's Chicago? Any Michael Jordan sightings yet?" Vanessa smiled. Rachel knew only that she was taking a personal trip to Chicago. Nothing about tickets or mysterious notes or long-lost loves. "It's been interesting," she texted back. "Tell you all about it when I get home." If she could even explain it to herself. Morning brought sunshine streaming through her hotel window and doubts about dinner with Michael. What was the point? They lived in different worlds. Their brief romance was ancient. History. Perhaps she should cancel, fly home early, forget this strange detour into the past. But curiosity about the sender of the ticket, about Michael's life, about what might have been, kept her in Chicago. She spent the day walking the city, visiting old haunts from her college years. The pizza place where they'd had their first date was gone, replaced by an upscale clothing store. The park where they'd watched stars on summer nights remained, though the trees were taller now. Time had changed everything, including them. At 7:30, Vanessa returned to her hotel room to prepare for dinner. She'd bought a new dress, simple but elegant, deep green instead of the red he'd always loved. This wasn't about rekindling old flames, just closure, questions answered, mysteries solved. At precisely 8 o'clock, the hotel phone rang. "Ms. Miller? Your car is waiting in front of the hotel." Not just a car, a sleek black limousine with tinted windows and a uniformed driver who opened the door for her. "Good evening, Ms. Miller. Mr. Jordan is at the venue already. I'll take you there now." Vanessa settled into the soft leather seat. How different from the beat-up car Mike had driven in college, the one with the broken heater and radio that only got 2 stations. The driver turned onto Lakeshore Drive. Vanessa watched the lights of the city reflect on Lake Michigan's dark surface. So beautiful. So different from her memories of struggling through Chicago winters on a student budget. "We're here, Ms. Miller." The limo had stopped in front of a small restaurant she didn't recognize. Nothing flashy. No line of paparazzi. No sign of the fame that followed Michael everywhere. "Mr. Jordan is waiting inside," the driver said, opening her door. "Private room in the back." The restaurant was dimly lit and half empty. A host led her through the main dining area to a door at the back. He knocked once before opening it. Michael stood as she entered. Just the two of them and a beautifully set table with candles. "You came," he said, sounding relieved. "I said I would." He held her chair as she sat down. Always the gentleman, even back in college. "I thought you might change your mind," he admitted, taking his seat across from her. "Have second thoughts in the daylight." "I almost did," she said honestly. A waiter appeared with water and wine, then discreetly vanished. "I own this place," Michael explained, reading her curious expression. "Bought it 5 years ago. I come here when I want privacy." Privacy. a luxury for someone like him. For the boy she'd known, privacy had meant a quiet corner of the library or an empty gym on Sunday mornings. "You look nice," he said. "Green always suited you. I thought you preferred red." He smiled. "On the court, yes. On you, green. Brings out your eyes." She'd forgotten he'd ever noticed. The waiter returned for their orders. Michael requested his usual without looking at the menu. Vanessa chose salmon. When they were alone again, Michael leaned forward. "So, Dr. Miller, tell me about your life." "You know I'm a doctor?" "I Googled you this morning," he admitted without shame. "Child psychologist, private practice in Boston. Several published papers. Impressive. Not compared to your achievements. Different fields, different measures of success." He sipped his wine. "But I've always wondered what happened to you. After I walked away?" He nodded. "I finished my degree, got my doctorate, worked for a hospital before starting my practice." Vanessa shrugged. "No championships or gold medals, just one life at a time." "Sounds more important than basketball." "Says the greatest player who ever lived?" She raised an eyebrow. He laughed. "That's just what they call me. The truth is, most of what I did was entertainment. You actually help people heal." Their food arrived, temporarily pausing the conversation. Vanessa watched Michael as he began eating. Same focused intensity he'd always had, even for simple tasks. "I followed your career," she admitted. "The championships, the retirement, the comeback, the second retirement. The gambling? The divorce?" His tone remained light, but his eyes were serious. "Those too. The media didn't tell the whole story. They never do." Vanessa set down her fork. "But I'm not here to judge your life, Michael. We all make choices." He nodded, seeming to appreciate her directness. "What about you?" he asked. "Ever married?" "No." She didn't elaborate. "Why not?" Vanessa sighed. "Never found the right match, I guess." That wasn't entirely true. She'd had relationships, good ones even. But something always held her back from commitment. A shadow from the past she could never quite outrun. They ate in silence for a few minutes. Through the door, they could hear the sounds of the main restaurant. Glasses clinking, muted conversations, soft music. "Your wedding ring is gone," Vanessa observed, nodding toward his left hand. "I read about your divorce." 3 years ago, Michael set down his knife and fork. "We tried, for the kids, but some things can't be fixed." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. We're both happier now." He studied her face. "You know what's strange? Sitting here with you feels more normal than most of my life has for the past 30 years. Vanessa understood. With everyone else, he had to be Michael Jordan, the legend, the brand, the icon. With her, he could just be Mike. "About that ticket," he said, changing the subject. "If I didn't send it and you don't know who did—" "A mutual friend, maybe," Vanessa suggested. "Someone from college?" Michael shook his head. "I haven't kept in touch with many people from those days. Fame, complicated things. Family member? Possibly. But why be anonymous?" Their desserts arrived. Chocolate cake for him, fruit tart for her. Some things never changed. "Whoever it was," Vanessa said between bites, "they knew we needed to talk. After all these years. Needed to? Or wanted to? Maybe both. Michael's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and frowned. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Just some business that won't wait." He typed a quick response. Being retired doesn't mean being free. As he set his phone down, Vanessa noticed the background image. A basketball court she didn't recognize. Small, old-fashioned. The kind local communities built for neighborhood kids. "New project?" she asked, nodding toward the phone. "Something like that." He put the phone away. "I bought the gym where I used to practice in college. The university was going to tear it down. I'm restoring it." "Why?" "Sentimental value." His eyes held hers. "It's where we used to meet, remember? After your late classes, you'd bring me water and quiz me on English while I practiced free throws." She remembered. Those quiet evenings when it was just the two of them, the rhythmic bounce of the ball echoing in the empty gym. "You still make that face," he said suddenly. "What face?" "When you're thinking hard about something, your eyebrows come together and you bite your lower lip a little." Vanessa stopped herself mid-expression and laughed. "Some habits don't change, I guess." "I'm glad." Michael smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. "I always liked that face." Outside the restaurant, rain began to fall, a gentle patter against the windows. Just like that first night he'd kissed her, walking her home from the library in a surprise spring shower. Ancient history now, but sitting across from him, watching him remember too, Vanessa felt the years between them shrink just a little. Dinner ended too quickly. 2 hours of conversation had barely scratched the surface of 28 years apart. "I should get you back to your hotel," Michael said, glancing at his watch. "It's getting late." Vanessa nodded, though part of her wanted to stay longer, to keep talking, to keep remembering. Outside, the rain had stopped. The night air felt fresh and clean. "My driver can take you," Michael offered, walking her to the restaurant entrance. "Actually, I think I'll walk," Vanessa replied. "It's not far, and it's a nice night." Michael frowned. "At least let me walk with you." "What about the press? The fans?" Michael Jordan can't just stroll down Michigan Avenue unnoticed. He smiled and pulled a baseball cap from his pocket. "You'd be surprised what this and good timing can do." They walked side by side, close but not touching. The streets were relatively quiet for a weekend night. Occasional passers-by glanced at Michael but kept moving, perhaps not quite believing who they'd seen. "When are you heading back to Boston?" he asked. "I should go tomorrow," Vanessa said. "I have patients on Monday." "Should? But you haven't booked a flight yet." She looked at him, surprised. "How did you know?" "Just a guess." His gaze was knowing. "You never were good at sticking to plans." Says, the man who retired from basketball. Twice. They both laughed, the sound echoing off buildings. Too soon, they reached her hotel. Neither moved toward the entrance. "It was good seeing you, Nessa." "You too, Mike." Old names, old feelings stirring beneath the surface. "Listen," he said suddenly. "I'm going to the gym tomorrow morning. The old one I told you about. Just to check on the renovations." He hesitated. "Want to come? For old time's sake?" Vanessa thought about her empty return flight reservation, about going back to Boston with questions still unanswered. "What time?" "I'll pick you up at 9. "I'll be ready." They stood awkwardly for a moment. A handshake seemed too formal, a hug too intimate. Finally, Michael leaned in and briefly kissed her cheek. "Good night, Vanessa." She watched him walk away, hands in his pockets, head slightly down. Just a man, not an icon. For tonight, at least. Back in her room, Vanessa called her assistant. "Rachel, I'm staying in Chicago another day. Can you reschedule Monday's appointments?" Sleep came easier that night, though her dreams were filled. With basketball courts and rain and a young man with a brilliant smile who promised forever. Morning arrived with sunshine and doubts. What was she doing? Extending her stay. Meeting. Michael again. Opening old wounds that had barely healed. But at 9 o'clock, she was waiting in the hotel lobby, wearing jeans and a simple blouse. 9:15 came and went. Then 9:30. Had he forgotten? Changed his mind? Was this her punishment for not answering his calls all those years ago? At 9:45, Vanessa decided to go back to her room and book a flight home. This had been a mistake from the start. Ms. Miller, a uniformed hotel employee, approached her. "Yes? There's a call for you at the front desk." Vanessa followed him, her heart sinking. Michael was canceling. Of course. He was probably halfway to his next appearance, her existence already forgotten. Again. "This is Vanessa Miller," she said, taking the phone. "Vanessa? It's Michael. I'm sorry I'm late." "It's fine. I understand you're busy." "No, it's not that. There's press camped outside my house. Someone tipped them off about us having dinner last night." "Oh." Vanessa's grip tightened on the phone. "I see. They're calling you my mystery woman. It's all over social media, apparently." "I should go home," she said quickly. "This was a bad idea." "No!" His voice was forceful. "Meet me at the back of your hotel in 15 minutes. My security team." Found a way out. "Michael!" "Please, Nessa. Don't run away again." The words hit home. Was that what she'd done 28 years ago? Run away when things got difficult? 15 minutes, she agreed. Back entrance. Exactly 14 minutes later, Vanessa stood by the service doors at the rear of the hotel. No sign of Michael. A black SUV with tinted windows pulled up, the passenger window lowered just enough for her to see Michael in the driver's seat. "Get in, quickly!" Vanessa slid into the passenger seat. The vehicle pulled away before she could even close her door properly. "Sorry for the cloak and dagger. Routine," Michael said, eyes scanning the rearview mirror. "Being me can be complicated sometimes." Vanessa fastened her seatbelt, her heart racing with the sudden escape. "Where are we going?" she asked. "To see our past," he replied, turning onto a side street. "And maybe figure out who's trying to connect it to our present." The car picked up speed, leaving behind the curious eyes of the press and carrying them toward answers neither was sure they were ready to hear. They drove in silence for several minutes, Michael focused on making sure they weren't followed. Vanessa watched the city pass by her window, streets growing less familiar as they headed toward the university area. "You came," Michael said finally, breaking the silence. "You said that yesterday. I'm still surprised." "That makes two of us." Vanessa turned to look at him. "This isn't exactly how I planned to spend my weekend." "How did you plan to spend it?" "Catching up on patient files, walking my cat, normal, boring life stuff." "You do have a cat?" A small smile played on his lips. "Miles. Orange tabby. Very judgy." "Named after Miles Davis?" Vanessa nodded, surprised he remembered her love for jazz. "I have dogs," Michael offered. 3 of them. Small talk, safe talk, avoiding the questions hanging between them. The SUV turned down a side street, then another. Finally, Michael pulled into a small parking lot beside an old brick building. A chain-link fence surrounded the property, with signs announcing private property and renovation in progress. "Here we are," Michael said, turning off the engine, "where it all began and ended." The old gymnasium looked smaller than Vanessa remembered. Paint peeled from the wooden doors. Windows were covered with plastic sheeting, a far cry from the gleaming modern arenas. Michael had conquered. He punched a code into a keypad by the side door. It swung open with a creak. "Watch your step," he warned, leading her inside. Construction's only half finished. The interior was stripped down, to bare walls in some places. Drop cloths covered portions of the floor. The smell of sawdust and paint hung in the air. But the court itself, that was intact. The same wooden floor, now carefully restored to its original honey color. The same baskets, though with new nets. "I tried to keep it as close to how it was as possible," Michael explained, his voice echoing in the empty space. "Same dimensions, same feel." Vanessa walked to center court, memories flooding back. How many evenings had she spent here, watching him practice? How many conversations had they shared, sitting on those very bleachers? "Why?" she asked, turning to face him. "Why buy this place? Why restore it?" Michael picked up a basketball from a rack near the wall. He bounced it once, twice. The familiar sound echoed through the gym. "Because this is where I was happiest," he said simply. "Before the fame, before the money, before Michael Jordan became a corporation instead of a person." He took a shot from the free throw line. Swish. Nothing but net. Some things never changed. "You came," he repeated, retrieving the ball. "Why?" Vanessa sighed. Curiosity. Unfinished business. That mysterious ticket. "That's it? What else should there be, Michael? We dated in college. It ended. Life went on." His eyes narrowed. "Is that what you tell yourself?" "It's the truth." "Part of it." He bounced the ball again, harder this time, but not the whole story. "What do you want me to say? That I've pined for you for 28 years? That I follow your every move? That I wanted you to answer my calls?" His voice rose suddenly, filling the gym. "I called you for weeks. Vanessa, weeks. You never picked up. Not once." There it was. The hurt she'd been expecting. The anger. "I was hurt," she said quietly. "You chose fame over us." "I chose my career." He threw the ball against the wall. It bounced back wildly. "Not fame, that came later. I chose the thing I'd worked for my entire life. And I wasn't part of that plan." "You could have been. If you'd answered the damn phone." They stared at each other across the court. 28 years of silence between them, finally. "Broken. You left without looking back," Michael continued, his voice tight. "Do you know what that did to me? I was 21, suddenly surrounded by people who wanted pieces of me, and the one person I trusted walked away. You had plenty of others standing in line to take my place," Vanessa shot back. "I saw the interviews, the models, the celebrities. That wasn't real. None of it was real. Seemed pretty real to me. Your face on every magazine, your name on everyone's lips." Michael walked toward her slowly. "You think fame is the same as happiness? I think you got everything you wanted. Not everything, he said quietly. Not even close. The intensity in his eyes made her step back. You knew who I was, Vanessa. What basketball meant to me. You knew before we ever started dating. I knew Mike, the student, the boy with dreams. I didn't know Michael Jordan, the brand. They're the same person. Are they? They were, standing close now, close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes, close enough to see the lines that time had carved around them. Why did you really come to Chicago? He asked, his voice softening. After all these years? Vanessa looked away. I told you. The ticket. The note. And if they hadn't come? Would you ever have reached out? Would you? Neither answered. Michael ran a hand over his face. We're going in circles. Maybe that's all we can do now. I don't believe that. He gestured around the gym. I didn't save this place just to relive old memories. I saved it because it mattered. Because what happened here mattered. Michael. We mattered, Vanessa. What we had was real. We were kids. We knew what we wanted. Vanessa shook her head. You wanted basketball. I wanted… What? What did you want? You. The word escaped before she could stop it. The real you. Not the superstar or the celebrity. Just you. Michael's expression softened. I'm still me, Nessa. Older. Maybe wiser. But still me. A sound from the entrance made them both turn. A security guard stood in the doorway. Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Jordan, but we need to close up. The construction crew is arriving early today. The spell broken, Vanessa stepped back, suddenly aware of how close they'd been standing, of how raw the conversation had become. We'll be right out, Michael told the guard, who nodded and stepped outside again. Alone once more, they stood awkwardly, neither sure how to end what they'd started. I should get back to my hotel, Vanessa said. Check-out time is soon. Are you still leaving today? She hesitated. I'm not sure. Michael picked up the basketball again. Have lunch with me. We can finish this conversation somewhere less loaded with history. Before she could answer, his phone rang. He frowned at the screen. I have to. Take this. Business. He stepped away, voice low as he answered. Vanessa wandered to the bleachers, sitting in the same spot she had so often as a student. From here, she had watched Mike transform from talented player to unstoppable force. From here, she had fallen in love with his determination, his focus, his joy in the game. Michael returned, slipping the phone into his pocket. Sorry about that. It's fine. Your life doesn't stop because I showed up. Actually, it kinda does. He sat beside her on the bleacher, their shoulders almost touching. You always did have a way of making everything else fade into the background. The compliment warmed her more than it should have. About lunch, he began. I'd like that, she interrupted. But I need to check out first and figure out where I'm staying tonight. I know a place, he offered. Private, secure, no press. Another. Restaurant you own? Something like that. He stood, offering his hand to help her up. Trust me. Once, she had trusted him with her heart. Look how that had ended. But this was just lunch, just a conversation, just closure. Vanessa took his hand, allowing him to pull her to her feet. Lead the way, she said. Outside, the sun shone brilliantly in a clear blue sky, a perfect Chicago day. As they walked to his car, Michael kept glancing at her, as if afraid she might disappear. "What?" she finally asked. "Nothing," he smiled. "Just making sure you're really here." "Where else would I be?" "Boston, with Miles the judgmental cat." She laughed, and for a moment, the years between them vanished completely. The place Michael knew turned out to be a small Italian restaurant tucked away on a quiet side street. No fancy sign, no valet parking, just a weathered green door with a small brass plaque reading Salvatore's. "Best kept secret in Chicago," Michael said as he parked the SUV around back. "Family owned for 50 years. The owner's father used to sneak me in here when reporters started following me everywhere." Inside, the restaurant was warm and dimly lit. Red checkered tablecloths, candles in wine bottles. The smell of garlic and tomato sauce filled the air. Andy, older man with silver hair, rushed forward when he saw Michael. "Mike, it's been too long." They embraced like old friends. Michael introduced Vanessa simply as an old friend from college. The man, Salvatore himself, winked at her knowingly but asked no questions. "Your usual table is ready," he said, leading them to a private corner booth shielded from the rest of the restaurant by a wooden partition. "No one will bother you." "Here," Salvatore promised, handing them menus. "I'll send Tony over with some wine." When he was gone, Vanessa raised an eyebrow. "Your usual table? I come here when I need to think," Michael explained. "Or hide." Michael Jordan needs to hide? More than you know. His eyes met hers across the table. "Fame is a cage, Vanessa. A gilded one, but still a cage." Before she could respond, a young waiter appeared with a bottle of red wine. "The house special," he announced, pouring 2 glasses. "And Uncle Sal says the lasagna just came out of the oven if you want some." "Sounds perfect," Michael said without consulting the menu. He looked at Vanessa. "Trust me on this?" She nodded, handing her unopened menu back to the waiter. Alone again, they sipped their wine in comfortable silence. The tension from the gym had faded, leaving behind a strange sense of peace. "So," Vanessa said finally, "child psychology. Why that path?" "You always wanted to work with kids," Michael answered. "Even in college, you volunteered at that reading program for underprivileged children. You remember that?" "I remember everything about you." The simple statement hung between them. Not an accusation this time, just a fact. "What about you?" she asked. "Life after basketball?" "Business, endorsements, the team ownership," he shrugged. "Keeping busy." "Are you happy?" Michael considered the question seriously. "Sometimes, when I'm playing with my kids, when I'm doing charity work with children who really need help, when I'm here eating good food with no cameras watching." He swirled his wine. "Are you?" "Sometimes," she echoed. "When I help a child overcome trauma, when I see families heal, when Miles curls up on my lap after a long day." "But not always?" "Is anyone happy always?" Their food arrived, steaming plates of lasagna with garlic bread on the side. They ate slowly, sharing stories of their lives. Michael talked about his children, his pride evident. Vanessa described her practice, her research, her travels. For a few hours, they were just 2 old friends catching up. No mention of their fight, their broken hearts, the years of silence, no discussion of mysterious tickets or unknown matchmakers. "I went to one of your games," Vanessa admitted, as they shared a tiramisu for dessert. In Boston, 1997. You did? Michael looked surprised. Why didn't you come say hello? What would I have said? Hi, remember me, the girl who broke your heart in college? I would have remembered. You were married by then. He nodded, understanding. Were you with someone? I was dating a surgeon. Nice guy, workaholic. She smiled faintly. Sound familiar? Ouch, Michael laughed. Fair point. What happened to us, Mike? The question slipped out before she could stop it. He set down his fork. Life, dreams, pride. Take your pick. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd answered my calls? If I'd tried harder to reach you? If we'd found a way to make it work? Yes. Only about 1,000 times. His voice was soft, honest. Especially during the hard times. The scandals. The divorce. Vanessa reached across the table and briefly touched his hand. I'm sorry. For what? Not answering. Being too proud. Too scared. Scared of what? Of being swallowed up by your world. Of becoming just Michael Jordan's girlfriend. Instead of Vanessa Miller. He turned his hand over, capturing her fingers in his. I never saw you that way. But everyone else would have. He couldn't deny it. They finished their dessert in thoughtful silence. When the check came, Michael insisted on paying. Where to now? He asked as they left the restaurant. Back to your hotel to check out? Vanessa nodded. I should figure out where I'm staying tonight? I have a guest house, he offered. Complete privacy. Security monitored. No one would know you're there. The offer was tempting. Too tempting. I shouldn't, she said softly. Why not? Because us, it's complicated enough already. Michael didn't argue, just nodded and opened the car door for her. Back at the hotel, he waited while she checked out and collected her small suitcase. The front desk clerk did a double-take when she saw him, but professionally pretended not to recognize the sports legend in her lobby. Last chance to reconsider that guest house, Michael said as they returned to his car. Vanessa hesitated. What are we doing, Michael? Really? Getting closure? Solving a mystery? Finding our way back to being friends? He shrugged. I'm not sure. I just know I'm not ready to say goodbye again. His honesty disarmed her. One more night in Chicago, she agreed. But I'm staying at a hotel. Deal. He smiled. I know just the place. He drove her to a boutique hotel in a quiet neighborhood. Not 5-star luxury, but charming and discreet. The kind of place where privacy was valued. They know me here, he explained. No press, no fans asking for autographs. After checking her in, Michael walked her to the elevator. Dinner tomorrow before you leave? He asked. One last meal for the road? One last meal, she agreed. Impulsively, he leaned forward and kissed her cheek, his lips lingering a moment longer than necessary. Good night, Nessa. Good night, Mike. As the elevator doors closed between them, Vanessa realized something unsettling. The more time she spent with Michael, the harder it would be to leave Chicago behind. Again. Vanessa woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar curtains. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then it all came rushing back. Chicago, Michael, the gym, the restaurant. Her phone showed 3 missed calls from Rachel in Boston. She should call back, explain why. She'd extended her trip. Make plain reservations for tomorrow. Instead, she got up and made coffee using the small machine in her room. Today was her last day in Chicago. Her last day with Michael. Then back to reality. Patience, paperwork, and Miles, the judgmental cat. Just as she finished her first cup of coffee, her phone buzzed with a text from Michael. Change of plans. Can we meet for breakfast instead of dinner? Something came up tonight. I'll explain when I see you. Vanessa typed back, sure. Where and when? Hotel lobby. 30 minutes? She looked at her reflection in the bathroom mirror. Dark circles under her eyes from a restless night. Hair still tangled from sleep. Make it an hour, she replied. Michael's response came immediately. Deal. 55 minutes later, Vanessa stepped off the elevator into the hotel lobby. Michael was already there, sitting in a corner chair, baseball cap pulled low. Despite his attempt at anonymity, a few guests were sneaking glances his way. Morning, he said, standing as she approached. You look nice. You look tired, she observed. Dark circles under his eyes matched her own. Couldn't sleep, he shrugged. Too much on my mind. He led her outside to where his car waited. There's a little breakfast place about 10 minutes from here. Best pancakes in Chicago. The restaurant was busy but not crowded. They were seated at a corner table away from windows. Michael ordered coffee and pancakes without opening the menu. Vanessa chose an omelette. So, she said after their food arrived, what came up tonight? Michael cut into his pancakes before answering. My daughter's flying in unexpectedly. Wants to have dinner with her old man. That's nice. Which one? Penny, my youngest girl. How old is she now? 24. Finishing. Law school. Vanessa smiled. Following in her father's competitive footsteps, I see. Even more competitive than me, if you can believe it. Pride filled his voice. Top of her class, captain of the debate team. Never backs down from a challenge. Sounds like someone I used to know. Their eyes met across the table. So much history between them, so many what-ifs. Penny's the curious one in the family, Michael continued, sipping his coffee. Always asking questions, especially about my past. What do you tell her? The truth, as much as I can. He set down his cup. She asks about you sometimes. Vanessa nearly choked on her omelet. Me? How does she even know about me? I mentioned you once, years ago. She never forgot. What did you tell her? Michael looked out the window, his expression distant. That you were my college sweetheart. That you knew me before I became Michael Jordan. That sometimes I wondered what life might have been if things had worked out differently. Vanessa sat back, stunned. You told your daughter that? It was during a rough patch in my marriage, he admitted. Penny found me watching old college games one night. She was maybe 16 then. Asked why I looked sad. It just came out. I had no idea. Why would you? We hadn't spoken in decades. They ate in silence for a few minutes, the weight of his words settling between them. Why now? Michael asked suddenly. After all these years, why did you come to Chicago this weekend? I told you. The ticket. The note. Right. The mysterious ticket. He put down his fork. May I see that note again? Vanessa reached into her purse and handed him the small card with its 5 words. He still asks about you. Michael studied it, turning it over in his hands. Then he began to laugh, not his usual confident laugh, but something softer, almost rueful. What? Vanessa asked. What's so funny? Penny, he said, shaking his head. It was Penny. Your daughter. How do you know? This handwriting, it's hers. I'd recognize it anywhere. Vanessa took the note back, examining it more closely. But why would your daughter send me e-ticket? She doesn't even know me. Oh, she knows about you. More than I realized, apparently. Michael leaned forward. Penny has always been fascinated by my pre-fame life. The parts before she was born. She's interviewed my old coaches, my college teammates. She even wrote a paper about me for a psychology class. That doesn't explain why she'd track me down and send me a ticket. Michael sighed. A few months ago, we were talking about regrets. Things we wished we'd done differently. I mentioned you again. What did you say? That you were the road not taken. The what if that still crosses my mind sometimes. He looked embarrassed. I didn't think she took it so seriously. Seriously enough to play matchmaker? Apparently. Vanessa shook her head in disbelief. So your daughter sent me a ticket and lied about you, asking about me? Well, that part wasn't exactly a lie, Michael admitted quietly. I do still ask about you, just not to her. Something in his tone made Vanessa's heart beat faster. What do you mean? I've kept tabs on you over the years. Nothing intrusive, he added quickly. Just checking how your career was going, if you were happy. How? I have resources, Vanessa. And you're not exactly invisible in your field. She should have been angry at this admission. Instead, she felt a strange warmth, knowing he had thought about her all these years. I looked you up too, she confessed. Not just the famous stuff everyone knows. I read about your charity work, your business ventures, the basketball camps for underprivileged kids. So we've been checking up on each other for decades without actually speaking, Michael laughed. And it took my meddling daughter to get us in the same room. Vanessa joined his laughter, the absurdity of the situation finally hitting her. She must be quite something, your Penny. She is smart, determined, doesn't take no for an answer. Wonder where she gets that from. Michael's smile faded slightly. Vanessa, about tonight. Your dinner with Penny, I understand. Would you like to join us? The question caught her off guard. Meet your daughter? The one who's been playing Cupid? Why not? I think you'd like each other. Michael, I'm leaving tomorrow. This was just closure, remember? Solving the mystery of the ticket. It doesn't have to be just that. His eyes held hers. Unless you want it to be. Vanessa looked away. This was dangerous territory. She had a life in Boston. Patients who depended on her. A carefully constructed routine that worked. I should get back to my hotel, she said, avoiding his question. I need to book my flight for tomorrow. Michael nodded, signaling for the check. I'll drive you. The car ride back was quiet, both lost in their own thoughts. When they reached her hotel, Michael parked but didn't immediately get out. I'm having dinner with Penny at my house tonight, 7 o'clock. He scribbled an address on a napkin. If you change your mind. Vanessa took the napkin without promising anything. Thank you for breakfast, she said, and for solving the mystery. Penny's going to be insufferable when she finds out her plan worked, Michael said with a small smile. Did it work, though? Vanessa asked softly. What was her plan, exactly? To make me face my past, I guess. To give me a chance to right old wrongs. Some things can't be fixed, Michael. But some things can. He reached across the seat and took her hand. Why did you really come to Chicago, Nessa? the whole truth this time. She looked at their joined hands. Because for 28 years, I've wondered if I made the biggest mistake of my life by not answering those calls. Because even though my life is good, great even, there's always been a Michael-shaped hole in it that nothing else has filled. And now I'm even more confused than before. She pulled her hand away gently. I need time to think. Michael nodded, understanding in his eyes. 7 o'clock. If you want to meet the mastermind behind all this. I'll think about it. Back in her hotel room, Vanessa sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the napkin with Michael's address. Meeting his daughter felt like crossing a line, from closure to new beginnings, from past to possible future. Was she ready for that? She picked up her phone to book her flight home. Her finger hovered over the screen. Then, instead, she found herself sending a text to Rachel in Boston. Need a few more days off. Family emergency. Can you reschedule Tuesday and Wednesday too? The reply came almost instantly. Of course. Everything okay? Vanessa stared at the address on the napkin. Not sure yet, she typed back. I'll let you know. The rest of the day passed in a blur of indecision for Vanessa. She walked around the hotel neighborhood, bought a new blouse at a small boutique, and called a colleague in Boston to check on a particularly difficult case. Normal activities that felt anything but normal. At 5 o'clock, she found herself in the hotel shower, washing her hair. At 5:30, she was putting on makeup. At 6, she was slipping into her new blouse and dressing up her jeans with heels and jewelry, all without admitting to herself that she had made a decision. The hotel concierge called a taxi for her at 6:30. As she gave the driver Michael's address, a flutter of nerves rose in her stomach. She was really doing this, meeting Michael's daughter, the one who had orchestrated this whole reunion. Michael's home was not the mansion she had expected. Large, yes, but tasteful. Set back from the road behind security gates in a quiet suburb. Private, without being showy. The taxi dropped her at the gate. She pressed the intercom button. Yes? Came a woman's voice. Vanessa Miller. I'm here to see Michael. A pause. Oh! The voice sounded delighted. Come right in. The gates swung open. Vanessa walked up the curved driveway to the front door, which opened before she could knock. A young woman stood there, tall, athletic, with her father's eyes and smile but softer features. Her hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail, and she wore simple jeans and a sweater. Dr. Miller, she said, extending her hand, I'm Penny Jordan. I've been looking forward to meeting you. She picked up her phone to book her flight home. Her finger hovered over the screen. Then, instead, she found herself sending a text to Rachel in Boston. Need a few more days off. Family emergency. Can you reschedule Tuesday and Wednesday too? The reply came almost instantly. Of course. Everything okay? Vanessa stared at the address on the napkin. Not sure yet, she typed back. I'll let you know. The rest of the day passed in a blur of indecision for Vanessa. She walked around the hotel neighborhood, bought a new blouse at a small boutique, and called a colleague in Boston to check on a particularly difficult case. Normal activities that felt anything but normal. At 5 o'clock, she found herself in the hotel shower, washing her hair. At 5:30, she was putting on makeup. At 6, she was slipping into her new blouse and dressing up her jeans with heels and jewelry, all without admitting to herself that she had made a decision. The hotel concierge called a taxi for her at 6:30. As she gave the driver Michael's address, A flutter of nerves rose in her stomach. She was really doing this, meeting Michael's daughter, the one who had orchestrated this whole reunion. Michael's home was not the mansion she had expected. Large, yes, but tasteful. Set back from the road behind security gates in a quiet suburb. Private, without being showy. The taxi dropped her at the gate. She pressed the intercom button. "Yes?" came a woman's voice. "Vanessa Miller. I'm here to see Michael." A pause. "Oh!" The voice sounded delighted. "Come right in." The gates swung open. Vanessa walked up the curved driveway to the front door, which opened before she could knock. A young woman stood there, tall, athletic, with her father's eyes and smile but softer features. Her hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail, and she wore simple jeans and a sweater. "Dr. Miller," she said, extending her hand. "I'm Penny Jordan. I've been looking forward to meeting you." Vanessa shook her hand, noting the firm grip. "I believe I have you to thank for my ticket to Chicago." Penny's smile widened. "Dad told you? I was hoping to keep it a secret a little longer." "Your handwriting gave you away." The young woman laughed. "I never was good at forgery. Please, come in. Dad's in the kitchen, attempting to cook." Vanessa followed her into a spacious living room decorated in warm earth tones. No basketball trophies on display, no memorabilia from his career, just comfortable furniture, family photos, and tasteful art. "He's been nervous all day," Penny confided in a low voice. "Changed his clothes 3 times. I've never seen him like this." "Penny?" Michael's voice called from another room. Who was at the gate? "Come see for yourself," Penny called back, winking at Vanessa. Michael appeared in the doorway, wearing jeans and a button-down shirt with an apron over it. He froze when he saw Vanessa. "You came," he said, echoing his words from their first meeting at the arena. "I came," she confirmed. They looked at each other for a long moment until Penny cleared her throat. "So, Dad, I think the pasta's boiling over." "What? Oh!" Michael disappeared back into the kitchen. Penny turned to Vanessa with a grin. "Want to help me set the table while Dad pretends he knows how to cook?" Over the next hour, any awkwardness faded as they worked together to salvage dinner. Michael's pasta had indeed boiled over, and his sauce was sticking to the bottom of the pan. Vanessa took over the sauce while Penny handled the salad, and Michael opened wine. "I've heard so much about you," Penny said, as they finally sat down to eat. "Dad's told me stories about college." "All good, I hope," Vanessa said, glancing at Michael. "The best," Penny assured her. "Like how you used to bring him water during late-night practices, or how you helped him pass English when his professor wanted to fail him." "He worked hard," Vanessa said. "He just needed someone to believe in him." "You were the first person outside my family who really did," Michael added quietly. The dinner conversation flowed easily. Penny was charming and direct, clearly her father's daughter, but with a warmth that seemed to come from somewhere else. She asked Vanessa about her work with children, her research, her life in Boston. "No husband?" Penny asked. "No kids?" "Penny," Michael warned. "That's personal." "It's okay," Vanessa assured him. "No, Penny. Never married. No children. Just a very spoiled cat named Miles." "Named after Miles Davis?" Penny guessed. "Dad mentioned you love jazz." Another detail he'd remembered. Another piece of her he'd carried with him all these years. After dinner, Penny insisted on clearing the dishes alone. "You two catch up," she said, waving them toward the back patio. "I've got this." The night air was cool but not cold. Michael's nice St. Gordon backyard was beautiful. garden lights illuminating, a pool, flower beds, and comfortable seating areas. "Your daughter is wonderful," Vanessa said as they sat on a cushioned bench. "You must be very proud." "Every day," Michael smiled. "She reminds me of you sometimes, the way she sees through people's masks, the way she stands up for what she believes in." "Is that why you told her about me?" "Partly." He looked up at the stars. "Penny and I have always been close. During my divorce, she was the one who kept me grounded. One night, she found me watching old videos, asked, what was wrong? I ended up telling her about you." "What exactly did you tell her?" Michael was quiet for a moment. "That, before her mother, there was someone else. Someone who knew me when I was just a kid, with dreams, not a superstar. Someone who saw the real me." "And she remembered that all these years?" "Penny doesn't forget anything." He smiled fondly. "Especially things that matter to me." From inside, they could hear Penny moving around the kitchen, giving them privacy while staying close enough to intervene if needed. The perfect wing woman. "There's something I never told you," Michael said suddenly. "Something I should have said years ago." Vanessa turned to face him. "What?" 3 days before our final fight, before you walked away, I bought a ring. The world seemed to stop. "A ring?" "Nothing fancy. All I could afford back then. I was going to propose before I signed my first big endorsement deal." His voice grew soft. "I wanted you with me for the journey, Nessa. All of it." Vanessa struggled to find her voice. "Why didn't you say something?" "Pride. After our fight, after the things you said about fame changing me, I was hurt. Then angry. By the time the anger faded, weeks had passed. You hadn't answered my calls, I assumed. You'd moved on." "I hadn't," she whispered. "I was just too stubborn to pick up the phone." "We were young," he said, as if that explained everything. "Maybe it did." "A ring," Vanessa repeated, still trying to process this revelation. "You were going to propose. I've wondered 1,000 times what you would have said." The question hung between them. What would she have said? The truth was, she didn't know. Back then, she had been afraid of being swallowed up by his growing fame, of losing herself in his shadow. Would she have been brave enough to say yes? "I think," she said carefully, "that we weren't ready, either of us. You needed to become who you were meant to be, and I needed to find my own path." Michael nodded slowly. "And now? Who are we now?" Before she could answer, the patio door slid open. Penny stood there with a tray of coffee cups. "Desserts. Ready?" she announced. "And I didn't even burn it." The moment broken, Vanessa and Michael followed Penny back inside. But the revelation had changed something between them, opened a door to a past that might have been, and perhaps to a future neither had imagined possible. Later, as Michael drove Vanessa back to her hotel, they were quiet, both processing the evening's conversations. "Your daughter's playing matchmaker, you know," Vanessa finally said as they neared her hotel. "I know," Michael replied. "She's not very subtle." "Does it bother you?" "No." He glanced at her. "Does it bother you?" Vanessa considered the question. "I'm not sure yet." He pulled up to the hotel entrance. "When's your flight tomorrow?" "I haven't booked it." The admission hung between them. "I asked for a few more days off." Hope flickered in Michael's eyes. Does that mean you're staying? It means I'm not ready to leave yet. She chose her words carefully. There's still a lot to talk about. Michael nodded, understanding. Dinner tomorrow? Just us this time. I'd like that. He leaned across the seat and, for the first time since college, kissed her properly. Soft, brief. A question more than a statement. When he pulled back, they looked at each other with new eyes. Not as the college sweethearts they had been, not as strangers, but as something in between. Something with the potential to become more. Good night, Nessa, he said softly. Good night, Mike. Sleep didn't come easily for Vanessa that night. Her lips still tingled from Michael's kiss. Her mind raced with his confession about the ring, the proposal that never happened, the life they might have had. What was she doing? She had a practice in Boston. Patients who needed her. A life she'd carefully built over decades. Yet here she was, extending her stay in Chicago because of a man she'd loved and lost nearly 30 years ago. Morning brought no clarity. Over coffee in her hotel room, Vanessa called Rachel again. How's the family emergency? Her assistant asked. Complicated, Vanessa replied, but not exactly an emergency anymore. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'm not sure yet. After hanging up, Vanessa checked her email. Patient files, conference invitations, a reminder to renew her medical journal subscriptions. Normal life waiting for her back in Boston. Her phone buzzed with a text from Michael. Morning. Still on for dinner tonight? She smiled at her phone. Yes. What time? 7? I'll pick you up. Perfect. Vanessa put down her phone and walked to the window. Chicago spread out before her. The city where everything had started. Where her heart had first soared and then broken. Now what? Continue this nostalgic trip down memory lane for a few more days? Then go home? Try a long-distance relationship? Move to Chicago? The last thought startled her. She wasn't seriously considering uprooting her entire life. Was she? To clear her head, Vanessa decided to visit her old university campus. The taxi dropped her off at the main entrance. Much had changed in 3 decades, but enough remained the same that memories flooded back with each step. The library, where they'd first met. The coffee shop, where they'd studied late into the night. The small park, where he'd first kissed her, under a maple tree just beginning to turn red with autumn. Vanessa sat on a bench near that same tree, now much larger. Students hurried past, absorbed in their phones and conversations. None of them knew they were walking the same paths once, traveled by Michael Jordan and the woman who had tutored him in English. I thought I might find you here. Vanessa looked up, startled. Michael stood a few feet away, hands in his pockets, wearing jeans and a simple button-down shirt with a baseball cap pulled low. How did you know? She asked as he sat beside her. Educated guess. I came here yesterday morning before meeting you for breakfast. He looked around at the familiar surroundings. Some things don't change much, do they? And some change completely. They sat in comfortable silence, watching students pass by. One young man did a double-take, clearly recognizing Michael despite his cap, but respectfully kept walking. I've been thinking about what you said last night, Vanessa said finally. About the ring. Michael nodded, waiting for her to continue. If you had asked back then, I don't know what I would have said, she admitted. I was scared, Mike. Scared of losing myself in your world. Scared of becoming an attachment to your fame. rather than my own person. And now? Now I've become who I needed to be, built the career I wanted, helped the children I wanted to help. She turned to face him. But I've also spent 28 years wondering, what if? Michael took her hand, his larger one engulfing hers just as it had all those years ago. We can't go back, he said softly, but maybe we can go forward. How? My life is in Boston. Yours is here. Details, he shrugged. Important ones, but still just details. A young couple walked past, holding hands, lost in each other. Vanessa watched them, remembering when she and Michael had been that young, that certain that love could conquer anything. I have dinner reservations for tonight, Michael said, changing the subject. But I want to show you something first, if you're free now. I'm free, she said, curiosity piqued. They walked to his car, parked discreetly in a faculty lot. As they drove, Michael was unusually quiet. Where are we going? Vanessa finally asked. You'll see. 20 minutes later, they pulled up to a small building in an older neighborhood. A sign out front read, Jordan Community Youth Center. Opening soon. What is this place? Vanessa asked as they got out of the car. My latest project. Michael unlocked the front door and held it open for her. After basketball. After the business ventures. Something that matters. Inside, the building was still under construction. Workers moved about, installing equipment, painting walls. But the central space was clearly designed as a multi-purpose room. Part basketball court, part classroom, part community gathering space. I'm building these in neighborhoods that need them, Michael explained as they walked through. Places for kids to play safely, learn, get help with homework, maybe discover their own potential. Vanessa walked the perimeter, noting the basketball hoops, the tables for tutoring, the small library nook filled with books. It's wonderful, she said sincerely. When does it open? 6 weeks. This is the third one we've built in Chicago. Michael watched her face carefully. We're looking at expanding to other cities. Boston is actually on our short list. The implication wasn't lost on her. Michael. I'm not asking you to move to Chicago, Nessa, or to pick up where we left off, as if the last 28 years didn't happen. He stepped closer. I'm just saying, maybe there's a way forward. That makes sense for both of us, not just Michael and Vanessa from college, but who we are now. A worker called out to Michael with a question about some equipment. He excused himself, briefly leaving Vanessa to process his words. Was there a way forward? Could they create something new from the ashes of what they'd once had? When Michael returned, Vanessa was examining a bulletin board where community programs would be posted. I have an idea, she said. These centers, they must need child psychology services, counseling for the kids who come here. Michael smiled slowly, understanding where she was heading. They absolutely do. We've been contracting with local providers, but having someone develop a comprehensive program would be ideal. Someone with experience in childhood trauma, in creating safe spaces for emotional growth alongside physical activities. Someone exactly like you. Their eyes met, a new possibility crystallizing between them. I'm not saying I'd move to Chicago tomorrow, Vanessa clarified, but maybe I could consult, help develop a program that could be implemented across all your centers, including the future Boston location. Especially that one. Michael's smile widened. Dr. Miller, Are you proposing a professional collaboration? Among other things, she replied, returning his smile. We have to start somewhere, right? He took her hand again, his expression growing serious. 28 years ago, I let you walk away because of pride. Because I thought my dream and your dream couldn't exist in the same space. He squeezed her fingers gently. I'd like to try again, if you would, to see if maybe our dreams can complement each other now instead of competing. Vanessa looked around the center with its mix of sports equipment and learning spaces, a perfect blend of their passions, basketball and education, physical health and mental well-being. I'd like that too, she said softly. Later, over dinner at a quiet restaurant overlooking the Chicago River, they began to sketch out possibilities. Weekend visits, video calls, a pilot program for psychological services at the youth centers. Baby steps toward building something neither of them had expected to find again. When do you have to go back to Boston? Michael asked as they finished dessert. Day after tomorrow. I have patients scheduled for Thursday that I can't reschedule. So we have one more day. One more day, she agreed. What did you have in mind? His eyes twinkled. Feel like shooting some hoops at the old gym? For old time's sake? Vanessa laughed. Only if you promise not to laugh at my terrible jump shot. I would never, he said solemnly, though his eyes danced with amusement. But I might offer some coaching. As they left the restaurant, Michael took her hand naturally, as if they'd been doing it for years, instead of days. Outside, a light rain began to fall, reminding Vanessa of their first kiss all those years ago. Some games aren't over even when the clock runs out, Michael said quietly, echoing the text he'd sent her at the airport. Sometimes they just go into overtime. Looking up at him, Vanessa made a decision, not to rewrite the past, but to open the door to a future neither of them had imagined possible. I'm ready for overtime, she said. Thanks for joining us for this touching story of rekindled connection. Where are you tuning in from today? We'd love to know in the comments below. If this story of Michael and Vanessa's journey touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that inspire connection and spread kindness to more viewers around the world. Don't forget to click on the video appearing on your screen right now for another emotional journey that will warm your heart. Until next time, remember that sometimes the most meaningful chapters of our stories are still waiting to be written.